In this Remnant 2 video, I'll be showcasing my Engineer and Archon build. This build performs incredibly well at clearing out groups of mobs and melting bosses on Apocalypse difficulty. The way we have this build set up, you will always have your Havoc form available. Before we look at this build, go ahead and click that like and subscribe button. It helps the channel and truly means the most. Now without further ado, let's get into it. For our primary archetype, we're running the Engineer. This archetype specializes in increasing skill damage and skill critical chance. These buffs will apply to both your Engineer turrets and your Archon Havoc form. With this class, we're using Heavy Weapon Vulcan skill. This automatic turret helps you greatly in the damage output. You should slot Engineer as your primary archetype. This allows you the perk High Tech. By holding the skill button, you overclock your carried or deployed heavy weapon, granting infinite ammo, increasing fire rate, and giving a 25% damage increase for 25 seconds. This perk is a 46-second cooldown, making it usable in almost every encounter. The Archon is an archetype that provides utility in its expertise in weapon mods and mod power generation. Some builds use the Archon archetype as a means of support. However, in this build we're using this archetype as a DPS machine. Through the skill Havoc form, we're able to hover around and shoot out lightning, dealing massive damage to nearby targets. This will be the primary source of our damage for this build. If used correctly, you should have a 100% uptime on this ability. The only time you won't be in Havoc form is when you're deploying a turret, using a relic, or casting a weapon mod. For this build we're running the Labyrinth set. Same as all my other build videos, this is done for purely aesthetic reasons, so you can switch this up depending on your taste and playstyle. The amulet rings are what make this build work. For our amulet we're running the Hyperconductor. This amulet allows double skill charges at the cost of skill cooldown and mod power generation, but don't worry as the rest of the build mitigates the cost. In our first ring slot we're using the Devoured Loop. With this, critical hits have a 1% chance to reset skill cooldowns. Through our turrets and mods, we will be giving this ability way more opportunity to proc. In our second ring slot, we're using the Stone of Continuance. This ring will increase your skill duration by 25%. This literally translates into more uptime for your Havoc form. In our third ring slot, we're using the Burden of the Gambler. This ring disables weak spots, however we gain a 10% critical chance and a 20% critical damage. For our last ring, we're using Burden of the Destroyer. This ring decreases the ideal range of our firearms, however we gain a 15% damage increase. Although the primary source of damage does not come from our weapons, they are synergetic to the way the build operates. The Black Maul AR-47 allows us a long gun with a decent fire rate and critical hit chance, increasing the odds of proccing the Devouring Loop. We further increase those critical chance odds by running corrosive rounds and momentum. For our melee, we're running the Stonebreaker Greatsword with the Dervish Mutator. In all my hours of playtesting, I never once needed the melee to trigger the skill cooldown, but it's there if you need it. Nebula, in my opinion, is a must-have for this build. The mod Nano Swarm, when paired with Harmonizer, drastically improves how this build operates. Always cast this ability when starting an encounter and incorporate it into your rotations against bosses. With the Relic, I switch between two options depending on the encounter. I will use a Shielded Heart to avoid one-shots in Apocalypse, and I'll run Ruined Heart for regeneration and mod power when traversing the open world. The relic fragments I run are Healing Effectiveness, Skill Damage, and Skill Duration. For our traits, you should have 10 points into the following: Fortify for Armor Effectiveness, Flash Caster for Skill and Mod Casting Increase, Triage for Increased Healing, Regrowth for Health Regeneration, Vigor for HP, Endurance for Stamina, Spirit for Mod Power Generation, Expertise for Skill Cooldowns, and Siphoner for Lifesteal. Thanks for watching this video. If you have any suggestions, please let me know in the comment section below, as I'm trying to constantly improve my builds. Also, let me know if there's a particular build that you would like to see me cover next. Hope you found this video useful, and hope to see you next time.